Hey there, everybody. I'm Mr. G, and we're just going to do a real quick Photoshop lesson. Now, open up Photoshop just like I have here. You can pause and get it open. Once you do that, I want you to go to File and then New. And what this will do is this will bring up the new dialog box that you can actually, uh, tell it exactly the kind of project you want and the size. Now, first thing we do is we name it. Now, always name it with last name and first initial, and then you give it the name. Of course, this time it's the name of the actual document. And we're going to call this one Tools Practice. I just want to practice a couple of tools. And what I want to do for this one, I want to use a preset. Now, the preset that I want to use is just a good old fashioned sheet of paper. So I go to US paper right here, and that will give us an 8.5 by 11. It's in inches, resolution 300, and the color mode is RGB. Don't worry about all this stuff down here, it's just confusing. And push OK. Once that happens, you have got yourself what looks like a regular piece of copy paper. And if you look around, we have a lot of stuff here on the sides, but what I really want to worry about or really want to look at and keep an eye on the most is your layers. This is where we manage all of the layers. Now here's the background. It's covered in white, and that's okay. That way we can see stuff that we put on it. Now, we never work on our background. What we do is we go down here right next to the trash can and we create a new layer. So when I click on that, I have a new layer. And if you can see this little checkerboard design that's on it, that means that it is transparent, that we can see through it. So anything we put on here, that will be the only thing on there, and everything else that we see will be in the background. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to use some tools here. I'm going to teach you a couple of tools. The ones we're working on today are going to be the selection tools. We have rectangular marquee tool. What it does, when I click on it, is it'll create a selection that's a rectangle. Easy enough. We also have the elliptical marquee tool. What it does is it creates a selection that is kind of circular, or if you stretch it, it's all oval, either going one way or the other. All right, so down here, we have another group of tools. And if you'll notice, what I'm doing here is I'm long pressing on the button, because if you see a little black, if you see a little black mark right here on the corner, it is an indication that says there are more tools underneath. And so when I long press on the lasso tool, what I'm doing is I am taking a look at what's underneath the lasso tool. But we're just going to worry about these two at the top first. I'm going to do the lasso tool and the polygon lasso. Now, the regular lasso tool, what it does is it lets you freehand draw a selection. Now, you know it's a selection because it's got these what look like marching ants going all the way around it, and that allows you to make a custom selection. Now, another type of lasso is called a polygon lasso. What that does is that lets you make selections with straight lines. And I've always loved to do the selections like this, or use this tool to make letters and numbers, because you can just make them with straight lines. All right, so there you go. Let's go back to, let me deselect. By the way, to deselect, you go to select and push this button right here, or just tap Control D on your keyboard, and that will clear your selections. Now, what a selection does is it allows the computer to know exactly where you want work to be done. So I have selected this little bitty part right here, and what I want to do is I'm going to grab my brush. This is just a regular brush, and right now you can see up here in the menu ribbon, I've got a 40 pixel paintbrush so that I can do some work in here. Now all I have to do is paint, and I can make a design. Now here's the deal. Because of the selection, the work is only being done in that selection. So any work that I do will only come out in that box. I have told the computer I've selected this area to be the only place where work is to be done. Now, I'm going to deselect this by doing Control D, and you can see here on this layer, I have got a piece of artwork that has a beautiful, nice, crisp edge around it, and it is completely clean from the rest. Oh, sorry about that. That's just a little, what do you call it, ghosting, because sometimes that happens when your computer is slow. All right, so now I'm going to go ahead and delete that. I'm going to get rid of it. And this time I'm going to show you how to fill a selection. So I'm going to make another selection. Yeah, you know what? This time I'm going to do it with the elliptical marquee tool. And I'm going to create a selection. Now, I want to fill this completely with one color. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here to my swatches and I'm going to pick a color. Let's pick this nice blue. Now, I've picked it over here, but if you look right here in my foreground color, it is now blue. Now, if I want to make a custom color, I can click on this one time and I'll get a color picker is what it's called. And I can, of course, select the color that way. Once I push OK, that color is there. I can also change my background color. I'm going to go ahead and change that one to red. So now I've got blue for my foreground and red for my background. Now, if I want to completely fill this with blue or red, which is kind of like what you would do with a paint bucket if you were working in Microsoft Paint, all I have to do is push Alt for the foreground color, push Alt and hold it, and then tap the backspace button, and it will fill with my foreground color. And then to fill with the background color, I push Control and and hold the Control button down while I tap the backspace. Now it will fill with my background color. All right, so if you have to, pause this video and go and play with that a little bit, and then we'll continue. All right, so now that you've had time to play with it, I've deselected by pushing Control D, which is deselect. So now you'll notice that I've deselected it. I don't have the marching ants anymore. Now if I use my move tool, I can move it around. And you can see it moving in here in this little window. So yes, it is working very well. So now I can do a lot of things with this. If I do want to change the size or shape of it, I can go to Edit and pre-transform, or just push Control T. Now I can stretch it and squash it and do anything I want with it. I can even rotate it. And when I'm done with my little transformation, I just click on the check mark and that will commit to the transformation, and now it's done. All right, so now let's say I want to make this a little more custom. I'm going to go back to my selection tools and I'm going to use my rectangular marquee tool. This time I'm going to drag a rectangle. I'm going to put it right here. Now you'll notice I'm still working in that same layer. I have not created a new layer. I'm still working on that layer where the red dot is. So that means that any work that I do here will actually affect the red dot. Now what I'm going to do is I'm not going to draw anything at all. I'm going to actually just push delete. Now on your keyboard there is a delete button. I'll let you look for it. It's close to the backspace button. And then when I push delete, what it does is it takes a big bite out of my dot. Now I'm going to do Control D to deselect and look at my new shape. This new shape, well, it looks kind of funny. If I were to do Control T and rotate it a bit, it might look like a funny hairstyle on a cartoon character. Yeah, so that's one way to use your selection tools. Not only can you fill it in with work, you can also cut pieces out of other shapes. So you can create shapes or you can edit shapes. So that is a real quick tutorial on the selection tools with a little bit added free transform and paintbrush. So this was Mr. G. I want to thank you for listening, and there will be another lesson to come where you use these tools to create something.